Well, I'm going to talk to you about microplastics. So, what are microplastics? Microplastics are practically small plastic particles that are less than 5 millimeters in size, and they are either fibers, my fiber is not there, or beads. They are two forms of microplastics, the primary microplastics or secondary microplastics. Primary microplastics are found in your cosmetics and your industry, and secondary microplastics are normally found in your larger debris that degrade over time and your polystyrene clothing. So why plastics? Why study plastics? Well, plastics are very important because we use them on a daily basis. They are light, they are durable, and inexpensive. So they're used for different purposes in our households. As a result, my presentation is a little bit cut. Yeah, it's a little bit off, so you can't see my graph there. But then basically what that is saying is that there is a continuous microplastics plastic production, and there has been since the 20th century, and currently there's more than 240 million tons of plastics being introduced in our systems each year. Okay. Where do those go? Okay, they go down your drain into the system. So that's what the system looks like. So the aim of the presentation, because this is a collaborative study, there are a number of aims that we wanted to achieve. The first one was to provide an overview of peer-reviewed microplastic studies around the world. The second one was to investigate the occurrence of ingested microplastics in fish caught along the KwaZulu-Natal region. The third one was to investigate the effect of known concentrations of microplastics on the gut of fish, the mullet, to determine the selective uptake of various microplastics in the mussel, and then lastly to investigate microplastics uptake in the water vascular system of sea urchins, the echinoids. Again, there's a lot of materials and methods that went into trying to achieve our aims. So as a result, I will not elaborate on the materials and methods. I'll just go say how, what we used instead of how we used, how we went about achieving them. The first one was a systematic meta-analysis study that included 3,431 peer-reviewed articles, and then the fluorescent microplastics were fed to fish, mussels, and sea urchins and digested following Klassen's methodology. Gut retention time was also measured in mullet over a period of 24 hours, and microplastics uptake was observed over the 24 period in the mussels. And then echinoids were exposed to sodium hypochlorite over 20 minutes to measure the metroporite pores and see if there are any microplastics in them following Tamori's methodology. The first overview study showed that clearly there is a bias, like being said before, there is a clear bias towards the Northern Hemisphere, and with the UK being by far the most active country in microplastic studies around the world. In the Southern Hemisphere, you can see Australia, and then South America is quite active, but then we are right there, and nothing is happening in our shores. But having said that, microplastic study is a fairly new study. Okay, it's a fairly new field. There has been plastic studies before, and we know about the effects of plastics, but then the studies focusing solely on the effect of microplastics is a new field. So it's been since 1995, as you can see, the first considerable increase was in between 2010 and 2013, and a considerable change was in 2014. Okay, what is important here, that it was very interesting to find that the mullet, as well as the fish, were the most studied organisms in microplastic studies. And these are organisms that affect humans. Okay, so it's supposed to say microplastics in humans. So why study how does that affect us? Okay, so microplastics get consumed by fish, and for me personally, it's not the microplastics that I'm particularly concerned about. Yes, they cause abrasion, we know that, but then it's the absorption of metals and toxins. You have your PCBs, PHs, aluminum and copper that really scorb onto these metals, onto these microplastics, and whose effects we all know. I know there's not enough studies on what are the effects of microplastics on humans, but we know the effects of these on humans, and that is endocrine disruptors, carcinogenic, and affect the reproductive system. So what are the effects of microplastics on animals in KwaZulu-Natal? We found that there are 3 in 10 fish contained microplastics in them. And of those 3 in 10, all 16 species that were dissected had microplastics in them. So regardless of their feeding or where they were caught, they had microplastics in them. And a very interesting thing again was where at the Durban 80 there, we found that the highest number of microplastics, the highest concentration of microplastics, which is where the fish feed, as opposed to Durban and the Richards Bay Harbour Bay. With the mullet, we found that the gut retention time of mullets increased twice when they ingested more than 1 millimeter microfibers, and up to 3 times when they ingested more than 5 millimeter microbeads. So it does really cause gut retention time. And you can only imagine what that does, what toxins get an opportunity to do when it's prolonged and stays in the gut for prolonged times. With the mussel, basically, the more you feed them, the more they eat. So that is what we found. And there is you can see even with the highest concentration, you just found that they would eat, they would consume that. So we do not know how much they would, the threshold of microplastics consumption in the mussels are. And there is a clear, significant difference in all 3 concentrations that were exposed. And that is the mussel there and the microplastics, as you can see, that we found in the gut there. With echinoids, we found that different species of echinoids have different madreporide pores, and with the stomopneuts being slightly smaller than the trypneuts, which is, and again, the microplastics were found in the madreporide pores. So they were found in the pores. Previous studies also have found that there are microplastics in the guts of the echinoids, meaning that, or suggesting rather, that the echinoids might have a dual uptake of microplastics through the gastrovascular system as well as the water-vascular system, which is something disturbing. Okay, so basically, all organisms investigated ingested microplastics. That's what we found. That microplastics do in effect increase the gut retention time in fish. Well, this is concerning because microplastics, not only are they abrasive, but they cause cause physical harm, but they also scorb toxins such as heavy metals and persistent organic pollutants. As I've said, the effects of those are really well documented. And this, as a result, may cause microplastics to accelerate bioaccumulation of toxins up the food chain, thus impacting on conservation of aquatic biodiversity. So, are microplastics in marine organisms in KZN a new conservation threat? My answer, yes. But the solution is in our homes. As 80% of Durban's marine pollutions are beads and fibers, which come from household products, toothpaste, washing powder, handy-andy, and also your polystyrene clothing. Choosing better products that do not contain polystyrene will go a long way into making sure that there is a reduction in microplastic introduced into the aquatic systems. However, a more long-term solution, because as it has been said earlier, conservation is not a short-term solution. A more long-term solution includes a 3-step approach, and that is education. So we need to educate the community, create awareness out there about these products that we are using that do contain microplastics, and if we do know better, we can do better. Secondly, a filtration plant. I know this does not look like a filtration plant, but this was, it's a study that shows that there are more natural ways of filtering our water. So let our water filtration plant invest in these kind of practices that will make sure that we have better filtration into us and to prevent our water from microplastics from entering our drinking water. And then finally, and mostly, I think, it's the producers themselves. They must also be made aware that we know about these microplastics. They're not good for our environment, and also they must come into play and make sure that we have a more sustainable, healthier, and aquatic conservation system. Thank you.